The King's Avatar, Chapter 1149 Chi Master vs. Assassin, 3, audio source, WuxaWorldAudiobook.com. Chapter 1149, Chi Master vs. Assassin, 3. Translator, Nomyami. Editor, Nomyami. After being blasted away by the high-level skill, Cold Seasons returned to his feet with a quick recover. However, when he looked across, Fang Rui's Boundless Sea showed no sign of seizing this opportunity to pursue him. He stood steadily while the airflow created by the Chi attack's explosion stirred up the dust on the ground. He looked righteous and had the imposing manner of a grandmaster. What happened? Did his playstyle also change after switching classes? The doubt only lingered in Zhou Guangyi's mind for a second. The Chi Master's design was radiant and righteous, but just then, Fang Rui had sneaked an attack when his view was blocked by the Chi bullet. How sneaky and deceitful was that? Playing dirty wasn't just a tactic, it involved many aspects, such as the technique and mentality. Fang Rui was someone whose dirty playing was tainted right to his bones core. Why didn't he seize the opportunity to launch his attacks after the high-level skill? Due to the system's judgment, it was very difficult to continue a combo after a high-level skill, but there was still a lot of opportunities for him to seize. However, Fang Rui seemed as if he were unwilling to take advantage over someone in a tough spot. Boundless Sea stood silently like a grandmaster, waiting for Cold Seasons to get up and make his move. What was strange about it? Zhou Guangyi had to wonder why. When a quarter of his health was blasted from Boundless Sea's high-level skill, he thought that Fang Rui might not be scheming. Perhaps he only wanted to use reverse psychology to make Zhou Guangyi lose focus. Now that Boundless Sea had a calm and composed manner, Zhou Guangyi couldn't help but hesitate. Boundless Sea didn't advance, but neither did Cold Seasons. There were 14 units of distance between the two. It was as if someone pressed pause. Zhou Guangyi couldn't see through Fang Rui's intentions, so he thought about letting Fang Rui make the first move. Zhou Guangyi planned and decided to counter every change by remaining unchanged. However, Fang Rui was patient like him, and Boundless Sea also did not move. The two confronted each other in such manner for 1 minute. "Why aren't you moving?" Fang Rui spoke in the chat. "Why aren't you moving?" Zhou Guangyi asked in return. "I'm waiting for you to move," Fang Rui replied. Zhou Guangyi was speechless. Why was he trash-talking with Fang Rui? "Then I'll move." His tyranny roots made his blood boil, and Zhou Guangyi decided not to overthink this. "Let's charge straight on and make this an intense fight." Cold Seasons initiated with a Xing cut. The cool air cut through 9 units of distance out of the 14 units between them. Boundless Sea retreated the moment Cold Seasons was about to attack. Fang Rui was planning to flee. There was a plot after all. This thought flashed in Zhou Guangyi's mind. However, his determination was set. No matter what trap Fang Rui had prepared, he decided to fight head-on. After a Xing cut, Cold Seasons split into 2. He used Shadow Clone Technique, the ninja's lowest level skill. The actual Cold Seasons teleported behind Boundless Sea. The dagger was about to quietly slit his throat with cutthroat. However, this attack was within Fang Rui's expectations. Boundless Sea suddenly ducked down and dodged the attack. The character twisted his body around and used a back throw while he was ducked down halfway. Cold Seasons immediately jumped back and barely dodged the grab. His body then flickered and returned to Boundless Sea's side as he stabbed with his blade. A normal movement wouldn't have such a quick speed. Zhou Guangyi was currently using the assassin skill, teleporting stab. It was as if the 3-unit distance didn't exist as he flashed back to the target's side. It seemed like Boundless Sea was still recovering from his back throw. However, when Cold Season's dagger stabbed forward, Boundless Sea stretched out his hands from the grab immediately rubbed together. Countercurrent. This was the Chi Master's lowest level skill, as well as one of the airborne skill available for every class. Although it required the Chi Master to launch it by pressing his hands together, it had its strength in staying hidden. No one had expected Fang Rui to cancel his back throw much earlier on, and borrowed the position where both his hands were stretched out to launch a countercurrent. This was hard to defend from. However, Zhou Guangyi was different. He knew Fang Rui very well. Although he resolved to attack proactively, he still reserved some power for defense. Teleporting stab versus countercurrent. In terms of the skill level, teleporting stab was definitely higher leveled and was faster. If this skill continued to be used, it would definitely pierce Boundless Sea first. However, this attack was unable to interrupt Boundless Sea's countercurrent. Since the launching method of countercurrent was unique and the air was already rising up, it couldn't be diffused by such an attack. This skill could be exchanged for damage, but he would be the one who was suspended into the air by countercurrent. Should he trade? Zhou Guangyi immediately made the decision. He cut down ruthlessly without backing down. The countercurrent then sent Cold Seasons flying in mid-air, as well as the beads of blood that trailed from his dagger. Since Zhou Guangyi was willing to make the exchange, it was obvious that he had methods to counter it. Air jump, the assassin's unique passive skill, allowed them to face airborne effects with ease. After being suspended in mid-air, Cold Seasons leapt back again. He jumped even higher and activated the assassin's new level 75 skill in mid-air, Rend. There was no need to question the damage of a level 75 skill. There were 5 new level 75 skills for the assassin: Rend, Kill, Dodge, Flash, Exterminate. The 5 skills could be used separately, but when the 5 were used in the order of Rend, Kill, Dodge, Flash, Exterminate, as a combo, it would deal additional damage. After all, the assassin only pursued instant and efficient bursts. Zhou Guangyi was already starting with the Rend, which showed that he believed he had the opportunity to finish using the Rend, Kill, Dodge, Flash, Exterminate combo. No one would have thought that when he started with the Rend, Boundless Sea, who was previously on the ground, was tumbling away. Zhou Guangyi suddenly had no place to use his skill and experience the loneliness of life. This guy. Zhou Guangyi thought that when Fang Rui was exchanging countercurrent with his teleporting stab, he had skills which would follow up after the airborne Zhou Guangyi. He used Rend, the high-level skill, so he could have a showdown with Fang Rui. Who would have thought that, after what seemed like a wrong judgment, Fang Rui resolutely made Boundless Sea flee after the exchange? He could only use the high-level skill by slashing at the empty air. Although Cold Seasons didn't receive any attacks after being suspended in mid-air, Zhou Guangyi wasn't happy at all. The moment Cold Seasons reached the ground, he followed it up with another Xing Cut. This low-level skill had a short cooldown, so it was often used to launch a quick sneak attack by assassins. Boundless Sea suddenly turned around and fired a chi bullet. Zhou Guangyi was hasty in his pursuit, so his lack of defense caused him to be hit straight in the face. Although the damage wasn't high, and it wouldn't stop his Xing Cut, it was satisfying to watch the chi bullet hit and explode in someone's face. Zhou Guangyi felt annoyed as he watched it explode on his screen, and immediately realized something not good. This was just like the chi bullet from before. Fang Rui was aiming to restrict his vision. Zhou Guangyi mashed his keyboard, but he was too late. Boundless Sea almost came at the same pace as the chi bullet. When the chi bullet exploded, Boundless Sea's following attack had arrived. He jabbed with his finger for pulse break. Break intelligence. No way. Zhou Guangyi yelled in his head when he saw the pulse break take effect. After that, the chi exploded and Cold Seasons was blasted away. Boundless Sea was calm and stood straight like a grandmaster. To be blasted away twice with the same method. Zhou Guangyi didn't know whether it was because Fang Rui was too shameless, or that he himself was too stupid. Cold Seasons stood up again and Boundless Sea remained unmoving. However, Zhou Guangyi couldn't stand idly anymore. After losing some of his health twice, almost half of his health was gone. Cold Seasons immediately rushed up and launched his attack. WuxaWorldAudio.com. Sigh, why are you so hasty this time? Fang Rui called in the chat while Boundless Sea turned and fled crazily. An idea flashed in Zhou Guangyi's mind. Fang Rui was using the cooldown method. The cooldown method was when a player attacked the opponent solely with high-level skills. However, the cooldown for the high-level skills was rather lengthy, so it couldn't be used continuously. As a result, when this tactic was used, the player would need to change positions or use any other methods to stall for time after the high-level skills was used. When the cooldown had finished for the high-level skills, they would be used again, and this process would repeat. Fang Rui was currently using the high-level skills Pulse Break and Chi Blast. The damage inflicted on the assassin, a class with low defense and low health, was very great. Judging from the two characters' situations so far, Cold Seasons could only receive 5 more of the 2 skills maximum before he would die. The cooldown method was commonly seen in the online arena, especially classes with some handy high-level skills. Some players actually relied on high-level skills to attack the opponent before running and hiding for the rest of the time. This was a method of fighting that was extremely looked down upon. However, the cooldown method was rarely seen in professional matches. One of the reasons was that the method wasn't accepted by many. The other reason was that a pro player wouldn't be helpless and struggle when dealing with high-level skills like normal players would. However, Fang Rui still managed to use the cooldown method. As the master of playing dirty, he had no qualms about using such an unaccepted and disdained method. When he was using this method, it was obvious that he wouldn't purely rely on the damage of the high-level skills. He only managed to succeed twice by launching the sneak attack at the most surprising time when the chi bullet blocked the opponent's view. He wasn't greedy at all despite succeeding with the pulse break. After the chi blast exploded, he didn't think about how he could connect it as a combo. This guy. All in all, Zhou Guangyi was pretty familiar with Fang Rui, so he could predict his intentions. Since Fang Rui had changed his class, he couldn't immediately play with ease and habit like he did with the thief for many years. Fang Rui used the cooldown method because repeating a few skills was a lot easier than having to deal with full sets of skills and combos for a different class. In addition, his unexpected dirty playing was able to make Zhou Guangyi suffer twice. I won't let it happen a third time. Zhou Guangyi felt that he had already paid enough for this painful lesson, so he wouldn't be tricked again. After that, Fang Rui made the effort to avoid fighting, while Zhou Guangyi was also helping him calculate the skill's cooldown. He estimated when the 2 skills would finish its cooldown, then he would immediately be on guard with caution. After he had failed twice, Fang Rui was helpless. "You've seen through me. It's a cheap trick," Zhou Guangyi said. "Hey, where did half of your health go?" Fang Rui asked. "Here's my attack." Cold Seasons sprinted AEAD. "You only have half of your health left, you think I can't handle that?" Fang Rui yelled and faced him. This time, it was a real showdown. In the end, Fang Rui won.